Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're headed straight into the Pentagon.
The Pentagon.
Though not literally. We're diving into the mind of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director of ARO.
The Pentagon's UFO investigation office.
Exactly. And we're going to break down his insights from all those UAP investigations he led.
This is going to be good. You know, what's fascinating about Dr. Kirkpatrick is that he's a physicist, a real scientist, tackling a subject that's, usually dominated by speculation and theories.
Right. And that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're not just talking about UFOs. We're talking about how a top scientist approached the whole thing.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what's really behind these unidentified aerial phenomena.
I mean, are we talking alien tech? Secret government projects? Or just, a bunch of misidentified weather balloons?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's where that whole skeptic versus believer debate really heats up. Dr. Kirkpatrick's perspective kind of offers something for both sides.
Yeah, like his take on the Fermi paradox, the whole if aliens are statistically probable, why haven't we met them yet thing.
Okay, so for those of us who haven't spent their Friday nights debating the Fermi paradox, break it down for us. What's Dr. Kirkpatrick's view on all this?
Well, as a physicist, he believes it's mathematically unlikely that we're alone in the universe.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I'm just thinking about the numbers. Billions of potentially habitable planets just in our galaxy alone. The odds of Earth being the only place with intelligent life, they're astronomically small.
So he's saying aliens are probably out there somewhere.
Pretty much. But here's the thing. He also points out that the chances of another civilization actually finding us, well, those are just as slim.
Because?
The space is just mind-bogglingly vast. Crossing it takes an immense amount of time, an immense amount of energy, and we're ultimately limited by the speed of light.
Okay, I see. So for the believer group, this confirms that aliens are likely out there. But for the skeptics, it explains why we haven't necessarily seen them just, hanging out around Earth.
Exactly. But of course, some people might counter with the idea of self-replicating probes, advanced technology sent out to explore the galaxy, replicating along the way. It's a wild concept.
Yeah, like in Star Trek or something.
Exactly. It's something Dr. Kirkpatrick considered. But he was very clear that none of the data he analyzed pointed to alien technology, including probes.
So no evidence of little green men building self-replicating spaceships then?
Not from what he found. He and his team at ARO were incredibly thorough, rigorously testing all these different hypotheses, from alien tech to advanced spy gadgets, you name it.
So if not aliens, what was he finding? Was he able to actually figure out what was behind all these UAP reports?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting,
Yeah.
and where understanding the technology involved is super important.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So he emphasized that military sensors, they're primarily designed to detect large metallic objects, like fighter jets, not small irregular things.
Makes sense.
So things like weather balloons, drones, even birds can end up looking pretty weird on those sensors.
So that's why we hear about all these strange radar blips and grainy videos.
Right. He even talked about a UAP wake that turned out to be just a sensor artifact. Basically, the sensor itself creating a visual illusion.
A visual illusion.
Yeah. Imagine you're a pilot and your instruments are showing something moving super fast, leaving this trail behind it. You'd probably think it's some crazy advanced craft right.
Right, for sure.
But it could just be a simple sensor error.
I see. That definitely highlights how easy it is to jump to conclusions when you're dealing with something you don't fully understand.
Right. And to make matters worse, he was super frustrated with the quality of data that was often available. He pointed out how those compressed videos, the kind you see all over the internet, they lack a ton of crucial information that's needed for proper analysis.
So all those viral UFO videos we see online.
Without the raw data, it's almost impossible to say for sure what they really show.
Makes sense. But what about those really famous cases? Like the 2004 Nimitz incident. The one with the tic-tac-shaped object. You'd think there'd be pretty good data on something like that.
Well, unfortunately, the Nimitz incident, that was way before ARO was even a thing.
So it kind of fell through the cracks.
Pretty much. Back then, there was no system for preserving and analyzing data from those kinds of encounters.
So no answers then. A total dead end.
Not exactly. Dr. Kirkpatrick actually spoke to one of the pilots involved.
Oh, wow. So he got some firsthand insight.
He did. And he emphasized that there are a bunch of plausible explanations, including classified programs, could be from the U.S. or even foreign adversaries operating in the area.
Okay, so basically we just don't have enough information to say for sure what it was.
Exactly. Without that raw data, it's all just speculation.
And that kind of brings up another issue that Dr. Kirkpatrick was, pretty passionate about. The whole problem of air and space congestion.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. And it's something most people don't really think about.
I mean, our skies are getting pretty crowded up there, right?
They really are. And all those objects up there, satellites, weather balloons, drones, even rocket launches, it just increases the chances of misidentification. And remember, these things aren't always harmless.
What do you mean?
Well, even something like a stray balloon can be super dangerous to aircraft, especially at high speeds.
Makes sense.
He even gave an example of how Starlink launches can look totally bizarre on certain sensors if you don't know what you're seeing.
The Starlink satellites, like Elon Musk's internet thing.
Yeah, exactly. And ARRO actually investigated a ton of UAP reports that turned out to be just Starlink satellites being deployed.
Wow, that's crazy.
It really shows how, our assumptions and lack of information can lead us down some pretty wild rabbit holes.
Okay, so we've got potential sensor errors, a ton of stuff cluttering up the skies, and missing data in some key cases.
Yeah.
What did Dr. Kirkpatrick say about how we tackle these challenges?
Well, one of his big things was establishing, standardized reporting procedures and data collection protocols within ARRO.
So basically trying to get everyone on the same page.
Exactly. He wanted to close those gaps that messed up past investigations. And that means getting different government agencies, even international partners, to, share information and work together.
So more transparency and collaboration.
Exactly. He also mentioned setting up a UAP recovery team.
A UAP recovery team. What's that all about?
That's where things get kind of interesting. It suggests a much more proactive approach to gathering evidence.
Like going out and actually retrieving these UAPs.
Potentially. And this is actually important for both skeptics and believers,
How so?
Well, skeptics might see it as a way to finally debunk a lot of these sightings. Actually recover and identify the objects.
Makes sense.
But believers, they might see it as a step closer to maybe recovering something truly extraordinary.
So they're ready for anything. From a downed drone to, who knows, maybe even a crashed flying saucer.
Well, Dr. Kirkpatrick was clear that it wasn't just about recovering potential alien spacecraft. It's about any potential retrieval, whether it's a weather balloon that went off course or something totally unknown. And this actually leads to another point he made about classification.
You mean like the government's hiding evidence of aliens thing?
Exactly. A lot of people assume that if something is classified, it must be because the government's covering up some big alien secret.
Oh, for sure. It's a popular theory.
But he explained that there are actually a lot of valid reasons for classifying information.
Okay, like what?
Well, protecting sensitive technology for one. Imagine a top-secret sensor takes a picture of a bird, a totally normal bird. That picture would still be classified. Not because the bird is some alien creature, but because they need to protect the capabilities of the sensor itself.
So it's about national security, not necessarily hiding evidence of extraterrestrials.
Right. And Dr. Kirkpatrick was very firm in saying that he had full transparency and cooperation from all the different agencies he worked with as ARO.
Really? So no shadowy figures stopping him from uncovering the truth?
Not from what he experienced. This actually goes against that whole idea of a massive government cover-up.
Okay, but come on, people love a good conspiracy theory.
Oh, absolutely. And, Dr. Kirkpatrick acknowledged that. He talked about that human desire to believe in the extraordinary.
It's more exciting to think about aliens visiting Earth than, a weather balloon or a sensor glitch.
Exactly. It just makes for a better story. And that's why it's so important to be aware of our own biases, to approach these things with some critical thinking. As much fun as it is to speculate, we need to base our understanding on evidence. And that's where Dr. Kirkpatrick's approach can be so valuable, whether you're a skeptic or a believer.
So how does that apply to both groups then?
Well, for those who are more inclined to believe in extraterrestrials, Dr. Kirkpatrick's work highlights the importance of demanding strong evidence.
Right, not just relying on grainy videos or stories.
Exactly. We need evidence that can hold up under scrutiny, and that's what ARO under his leadership was all about.
So even if you want to believe in aliens, you should still be demanding solid proof.
Exactly. And then for the skeptics, Dr. Kirkpatrick's approach emphasizes the need for critical thinking. He shows how easy it is to have sensor errors and misinterpretations, how a lack of data can fuel speculation, and how even things we know about can look strange under certain circumstances.
So don't believe everything you see and hear.
Right, especially when it comes to something like UFOs. That's where skepticism is so important. It pushes us to question things, to look for good evidence, and to consider other explanations before jumping to conclusions.
So no matter where you stand on the whole alien question, Dr. Kirkpatrick's approach offers valuable lessons in how to think about UAPs.
Absolutely, it really is. It's about, demanding evidence, questioning assumptions, and just recognizing that even the smartest people can be fooled by bad data or incomplete information.
Right. But there's one more thing from Dr. Kirkpatrick's interview that I got to ask you about. He was asked directly if he ran into any pushback from the government, like, trying to keep things secret while he was investigating UAPs.
Yeah, and his answer surprised a lot of people.
It's hid. He said that he actually had full transparency and cooperation from all the agencies involved.
Even those agencies that are always at the center of those government cover-up theories.
Exactly. He even specifically mentioned the Department of Energy.
The one some people think is hiding a crashed alien spacecraft.
Yeah, and he totally shut that down.
Yeah.
Said he was given access to everything he asked for, including historical records.
So much for that theory.
I know. So what does that tell us about this whole idea that they're hiding something from us?
Well, it makes you question that whole narrative, doesn't it? The idea that there's this, massive effort to keep evidence of aliens a secret.
Right, like Men in Black or something.
Exactly. But, it's important to remember that there have been times when the government has kept things secret or, even done things that weren't right.
Oh, for sure.
But from what Dr. Kirkpatrick says, it seems like within ARO and those UAP investigations, there's a real push to be transparent, to follow the evidence no matter where it leads.
That's a big deal coming from the guy who was literally leading the Pentagon's UFO office.
It is, and it leads to another question. If there isn't this huge cover-up, why do so many people think there is?
Why do you think that is?
It's a tough one. Maybe it's because, we've had all these years of speculation and conspiracy theories about UFOs, and some of that comes from, real secrecy during the Cold War.
Like they were hiding stuff from the Soviets.
Exactly. It's hard to break free from that kind of thinking, even when there's evidence that says otherwise. Plus, there's that human need to believe in something bigger than ourselves.
Like aliens.
Right. It's just more exciting to think about aliens visiting Earth than, misidentified weather balloons or sensor glitches. It's a way better story.
So what's the bottom line for our listeners, especially those trying to figure out what to believe about UAPs?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that the way we study UAPs is changing. We're moving away from speculation and secrecy and toward a more scientific approach. One that's based on data and transparency.
And that's a good thing, whether you believe in aliens or not.
Exactly. Even though Dr. Kirkpatrick didn't find proof of aliens, his work is a big step forward in how we investigate these mysteries.
He set a new standard: rigorous analysis, transparency from institutions, and a willingness to follow the evidence no matter what.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, there's one last thing from Dr. Kirkpatrick's interview that really stuck with me. He mentioned being impressed by some of the tech he saw during his investigations.
Oh, yeah. He was kind of vague about the details, but he did say that the advancements coming out of the Department of Defense and the intelligence community are really, really great. And that's coming from a physicist who's seen it all.
Makes you wonder, what could be so advanced that it would impress someone whose job was to investigate alien tech?
It's a good question. Think about the things we associate with UFO sightings. Hypersonic speeds, defying gravity, maybe even manipulating space and time.
So you're saying some of what people think are aliens could actually be top secret human technology?
It's possible. And it makes you wonder if those secret programs are adding to the whole UFO mystery. People see something they can't explain and they think aliens when it might be something we created ourselves.
It's like that Arthur C. Clarke quote: "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic."
Right. And if those technologies are being kept secret, well, it's no wonder people are jumping to conclusions about extraterrestrials. It creates a real dilemma, though, balancing national security with the public's right to know. And then there's the whole issue of, unexplained events causing fear and speculation. It's a tough balance.
But as Dr. Kirkpatrick's work shows, finding that balance is so important, especially when we're talking about something as potentially world-changing as UAPs.
Totally agree. I think it all comes back to, the pursuit of knowledge, whether that leads us to aliens or just a better understanding of our own amazing capabilities. The journey is what matters.
Well said. As we wrap up our deep dive into Dr. Kirkpatrick's work, it seems like we have more questions than answers.
And that's okay. Sometimes the best thing is to just admit what we don't know and to be open to the possibilities.
Exactly. Dr. Kirkpatrick may not have found aliens, but he showed us how important it is to investigate things carefully, to think critically, and to be willing to question what we think we know. That's a great place to start for anyone who wants to learn more about UAPs.
It is.
Yeah.
And maybe as those classified technologies keep developing, we'll start to understand what's really possible. Who knows? Maybe the line between human ingenuity and what we see as alien is blurrier than we think.
That's a great thought to leave us with. So, until next time, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and remember, there's always more to discover.
I would have been on top of the charts, but it's politics. You do some gimmick shit and post, you get a lot of clicks. Drop some real shit and they probably won't acknowledge it.